All right, do it live on a Tuesday edition of the program. There you are. Come on, cut. Merely Bo, the great Z.
At least my mic wasn't on for that.
Yeah. I mean, not quite. You're good. You say.
I wanted to throw that in the other day when you were telling me that unbelievable story about the guy running and everybody chasing that somebody should have been commentating.
Oh, that was Gibbe.
And that would have been,
That
would have
was
been a great
the Bowling Green kid who was running from the authorities.
Running from Johnny Law, man.
From John Law on homecoming week. So that made the round. So I thought of Gibby with that, and then my brother-in-law is a Bowling Green guy too. So I sent it to him, and he was dying. He goes, "That was me, except I got caught when I stopped to throw up."
Yeah.
I said, well, that's about right. That'll happen. We've got a lot to do. Do you want to? Let's go choose your own adventure. Do you want to pay homage to an all-time great first? Do you want to do Monday night first, or do you want to do our updates first?
Let's do our updates, get those out of the way, and then we can have bigger discussions because they're just updates and there's no practice. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
Just let the people know what's going on, and then we'll go get into our business.
All right. We're off today. Back in the building tomorrow to start preparation for the commies. Nick Chubb will practice tomorrow. Kevin Stefanski hinted that Nyheim Hines could also practice at some point this week. The 21-day window opens tomorrow. At the end of the 21 days, he has to be elevated to the roster or be placed on IR for the rest of the season. What do you think about this news yesterday in regard to Nick Chubb?
I think it's great. I think that he is well ahead of schedule. I think that he could be back. I think he could be ready to roll soon. And that's I always thought. I thought, mid to late October would be the time period. It could even be before that, but it's great news. We need him. We need David Njoku. We need all hands on deck right now. We are 1-3. And the schedule is going to be very hard the next 5 games. And we have to find a way to be 5-4 or at the worst 4-5 after these next 5 games.
I think we're kind of in a race with Cincinnati because we both share the same record, 1-3. Now their offense is hummed for 3 straight weeks. Their defense, they have issues, but offensively they've been going for 3 weeks in a row, really.
Yep.
But our schedules are pretty similar. Theirs is they still get to play the Giants. They've already played Washington, so they still get to play the Giants in their next 5. I was actually looking at their schedule this morning and kind of juxtaposing it to ours and kind of said the same thing about them. Like if they could get to 4-5, that's not ideal, but that's salvageable.
Right.
You can try to find a way to play the second half with purpose and chase down a playoff spot. You're not going to win the division if you're 4-5 at halfway through. It's just not in the cards. But you could certainly still make the playoffs and all of those things. And that is kind of the thing. I think us in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati plays Baltimore this weekend. So there is an opportunity for one of those 2 teams to find themselves back in the mix. And not by no coincidence, we play them in that stretch as well.
Totally. Look, if Cincinnati wins, they're 2-3. The Ravens would be 2-3. If we could win, we'd all be 2-3. We'd be right there. And if not, the Bengals drop to 1-4. We have a chance to get ahead of them. Right. It's all good. The division games are going to be so massive for the Cleveland Browns this year. I mean, they are every single year, but this year in particular, I think it is going to be very, very interesting to see how it's going to go because you've lost a couple games that you thought you were going to win, and I think for the Browns it's going to require 4-2 in the division.
Mm-hmm.
I think those 6 games you've got to be at least 4-2 to have a shot. And if you do that, you're a 500 football team where you are right now, and then you're going to have to just figure out a way to be 1 or 2 games over 2 games over 500, maybe 3 games over 500 in your non-division games the rest of the way to try to get to 10 wins. That's the math. That's what it's going to take. I mean, you can really only afford to lose 2 more non-division games, even if you go 4-2 in the division.
Yeah. All right. So you can. They go at 1-3. They go host Baltimore, at Giants, at us, host Eagles, host Raiders. So that's their next 5.
Okay.
So that's their next 5. For us, it's right here in front of us. It's Commies, Eagles, both on the road, host Cincinnati, host Baltimore, host Chargers.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So it's 5 games. You've played 4. It's 5. In order to get to 5-4, you're 4-1 in those stretch. The worst I think you can be is 3-2 if you want to have a hope. So
That's what I said. You got to.
That's
worse
really
you can be
it.
as 4-5. This is.
And you're in the exact same boat as a division foe who has the exact same, if not loftier, goals than you do. But if you go to August, both us and them said, "Let's go win the Super Bowl." That's what we
Yes.
thought. So that's the thing. Now, from their perspective, again, their offense is humming right now. Not much is for us. Back to Nick Chubb for a second. I get this all the time. I'm sure you get this all the time, and we don't have the answer for it, folks. What are we getting with Nick Chubb when he comes back? This were 2 catastrophic injuries. I'm past the point of ever counting out him.
Correct.
But at the same time, I don't know what to expect on the field. But I do know this. Nick Chubb coming back to practice Wednesday in whatever form he's in will be an incredible boost to the morale of this team.
Yep.
It'll be an incredible boost to the accountability of this team. And it's not that Nick, you guys know him plenty. I mean, everything that you think about him is exactly what it is. If you created a football player, it would be Nick Chubb. He's not rah-rah guy. He's not a yell guy, but he's an example guy. Mm-hmm. So what you're going to get out of him in return to practice is a return to there's a level of accountability and professionalism that Nick Chubb carries that others can't help but follow.
Yep.
And so that will all help. In terms of on the field, when does he help or what does that look like? Really only he knows that, and he probably won't even know that until you get on the field.
Right. No, you hope it's got to be a boost. Wherever you need that inspiration from, this is what you got to get. You need that boost, and Nick Chubb hopefully will provide some of that lift for this Cleveland Browns football team. You've got to find something to rally around. And by the way, Nyheim Hines, our return game, especially with Pierre out, has not been anything special, certainly on the kickoffs. Getting Nyheim Hines actually has a chance, I think, to be a little bit of a difference maker for us. Getting him back, I think, is going to help as well.
Do you think that the dynamic kick would have a bigger impact?
Did I?
Yeah, me too. It really hasn't.
No. There's been 1 kick return touchdown so far, and that was week 1.
Yeah, and it hasn't really changed, like starting position or.
You would think what's wild is touchbacks used to come out to the 20, then they made it to 25, then they made it to the 30, and it's really no discernible difference in scoring. Now, we are starting to see some teams light it up, and last night, let me tell you something. 2 Monday night games need to be here to stay, because when you have a complete stinker.
Well, the first one would have been one where I just would have went Manning cast only. By the time I got home from basketball tryouts, it was cooked.
They weren't even going to
do.
They weren't even going to. Manning cast would never even have done that game. They'd have been like, pfft.
Yeah, but it would have been something where it would have been funny to listen to their interviews and make fun of the people and how bad it was.
Oh man,
no, you certainly needed the second game. You and I split these games. We had Miami and then we had Detroit, so we got one of them. On the Miami side of it.
No, you got. I remember I was like.
Oh, did you get them both?
No, I didn't get either.
Oh, really? I thought you and I went the same. Oh,
We
I went
should
same
have.
but different.
Remember?
You flip-flop
I flipped
live.
it. I literally talked myself into why it should have been the Lions, and it was obvious that it should be the Lions, and then for some reason.
You live flipped. That's right.
Yeah, like
you
an
talked
idiot.
yourself off of, on both. Yeah.
This is what happens when you're slumping.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard out there.
You
in
had a
the
winning
streets.
week, though. You're 9-7. I was 7-9 again.
It's tough. It's hard in the streets.
I'm going to start giving our stats out as how many games we are over 500 from the start of the 23 season. Because we're still like 40.
Just from last
From
year.
the beginning of 2023, we're 40 games
Sensational.
over 500 each. Yeah.
I cannot believe, and I think it borderlines on malpractice or malfeasance, that Miami went into this season as a team that was expecting to be in the mix in the division and at the top of the AFC and did not have a viable backup plan to Tua Tagovailoa, who has been hurt often and always, and we know it's none of his fault, but he's just as prone to concussion, he's prone to injury. To not have a viable backup behind him who could competently manage a football game is a stunning act of negligence. Stunning.
Yes. My hot take is maybe Tua is the MVP of the league, because when he's in and when he's out, I mean, they've still got Tyreek Hill, they still got Waddle, they still got Achane. This is the worst 3-game stretch of Tyreek Hill's career.
Oh yeah, I mean they can't.
This is the only other time he's ever been below 50 yards for 3 straight games was his rookie season in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Tua's ability to throw with anticipation and operate this offense is stunning when you see what it's looked like without him.
Yes.
I don't.
Right, but like this type of offense is being operated by Sam Darnold, by Brock Purdy, by Tua Tagovailoa, by Matt Stafford. It's all
They're different.
they're all come out of the same umbrella.
Same roots, but this is not a Shanahan running game.
No.
It's very
He's
much more
adapted
of a
it to their
Passing, yeah, and their
what they
speed
had,
and the motions.
which to me only exacerbates the idea that they didn't think they needed a competent backup.
I just wonder,
Like, just put Flacco on that team.
I don't know if Flacco works on that team. And the reason I'll
It
say
works
that,
better than what's happening now. He
for
could throw the bombs over
sure.
Baghdad.
Well, he would at least hit those.
Yeah, he could
Yeah.
hit the deep shots. I mean,
And-
they could just have Waddle and Hill.
I mean, I felt so bad. Snoop Huntley was such a great guy when he was here,
Oh.
well liked by his teammates. I mean, you didn't see it. So there's a pregame interview with Tyreek Hill. And he's like, dude, our quarterback's a Pro Bowler. He's like, we're gonna be fine. Like this is like, man, this is gonna be a great game. We're gonna light these guys up. And then by the end of the game,
So we
he's
thought.
throwing his helmet and yelling on the sidelines because he got missed. I think at least for 2 long touchdowns. He missed him. Flacco would hit those, but this offense is much more about quick releases, anticipatory throwing. Flacco's got a little bit of a longer release and like drills it in. There's a lot more kind of air under the ball, like floaty stuff that Tua does. Seeing it, I mean, when we went down there a couple years ago and got smoked by them, it was like watching art. It's how good he was, and none of it looks good. It's just so good.
Yeah.
I don't know who it could be. I mean, I think
You would acknowledge, though, that the situation that they were in
they
was-
should just go get Tannehill and be like, look, dude, you might start the whole season, you might not. Where's this
Yeah.
magical? I'm going to start the rest of the week. I mean, he's hoping for a Flacco situation, is my guess.
Sure. And there may be one that crops up at some point, but
Like if Purdy gets hurt, like I don't even know who the backup with the Niners is right now. Is it
I don't know.
Garoppolo's with the Rams? Which,
Yes,
by the
he's-
way, I
by the
imagine-
way, that would be somebody who would be viable.
yeah, he
on
would
that-
be fine in this offense.
in this offense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that would have been better than what they chose to do, and they had everything else, and they had a quarterback who's injury prone. You're about ready to have a lost season.
I think they were thinking, well, he just made it through all of 2023 and was a leading passer in the NFL. Like he hadn't had one since 22. All those ones, it felt like to me it was last year, but it was actually 2022 were all those concussions. He is so important to what they do. They are dreadful without him. They might be the worst team in the NFL without him.
They're right up there, buddy. They're right up there, and I think conversely, like with Tennessee and their operation, like Rudolph barely competent, but better than Levis.
Yeah. They would even be better off with like Josh Dobbs.
Yeah,
Dobbs
dude,
would-
that's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of guys
plenty
who
of
are
guys.
capable
Yeah.
of getting you through a 3 or 4 game stretch and winning 2 games. You cannot lose that game at home if you're trying to be a real football team. If you're trying to be a serious team, that's impossible.
And they had a lot of chances early where they could have, I think, kind of blown it open, and they didn't. It was dreadful. That one was dreadful, and the other game was so much fun.
It was.
That's great to me. That is great football. Seahawks had a chance, I think, to probably win that game or certainly be closer in it, but that was just so fun. The Lions are so fun to watch. I thoroughly
They're flawed,
enjoy
though,
them.
for sure. They're definitely flawed because they went perfect in the pass game.
He went 18 for 18.
Yeah, I know.
For 292
and then
yards.
they even had the Amon St. Brown threw it to him for a touchdown.
They were 19
19 and 19.
Goff averaged 16.2 yards per attempt, 95.1 and 155.8 quarterback rating. If 158.3 is perfect, how does he not perfect?
What else would you need
What do you
from
want him to do?
Maybe that
He did
exposes
throw an
the system.
incompletion. He threw 2 touchdowns. He averaged 16.2 yards an attempt. It's craziness. And he caught a touchdown. I mean, what a game for Jared Goff. So fun. Gibbs is electric. Montgomery had one of the best catches and runs I've ever seen. Kenneth Walker had one of the most fun plays I've ever seen where he got tackled, but his knee and his elbows never touched. Then he kind of dove into the tackler to use his head to like nip up out of it and kept running.
Yeah.
That one was crazy.
Geno was really good. Threw for 400 of the game.
Geno
They kept
was
throwing it
great.
down the field. Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'd like him to run. Jackson Smith and Jigba does 2 now that this is the first, I think, like full game of his I've gotten to watch this year. He does 2 things. One, it feels like they don't let him run more than 10 yards down the field. Like he just isn't allowed to run routes that are more than 10 yards down the field. And number 2, he's like old school Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, where remember they would catch it and then they would just kind of like go down.
Yeah. Just get down.
He goes to the ground after he catches the ball immediately.
He does. I noticed that last night too.
But they had a fun play. We need more downfield laterals. They picked up a 3rd and 15. They threw a little cross to him on the right side with some guys blocking, and then he swung it out to Charbonnet like an overhand pass to pick up a first down. That was a great play. And the Lions did it the week before for a touchdown.
I honestly don't know. Like, we use it in youth football all the time, and I know you hardly ever see it in the
hook and
NFL.
ladder.
It's pretty easy to execute.
It feels like it because
And
everybody pursues to the ball so hard.
and then it's there. I don't know. I don't know.
And
why they
Jamison
don't.
Williams, the speed on that 70-yard touchdown, he started kind of celebratory running, I'll call it, on the 30. And nobody came close to catching.
No. Goff had a great line about him post-game where he said, every single defense is worried about him always.
Yes.
Because of that. Because it's that home run threat.
And that's what he's finally
Like,
this
it doesn't
it's
have
3
to
years
be
in the making.
12 targets. It's not that. It's the threat of it. He was only 2 last night. He caught them both. But it's the threat of it that opens everything else up.
He has 13 catches for 289 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 22.2 yards per catch. He's on pace for a 1,228-yard season. I mean, yeah, like the dude, this is what they drafted him to be. I mean, people I think forget that he was, the 12th overall pick in the draft.
And that was coming up with a broken leg.
Right.
Like, it's not like he was healthy at the time of the draft. He didn't even do the combine.
He's only got 13 catches, which is tied for 69th in the league. And he's 11th with 289 yards.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, when he was there, when he was at Ohio State before he transferred to Alabama, and you'd talk to Hartline about this, and that's when Garrett was there and Olave was there and Smith and Jigba was there, and they would say the most overall talented is Jamison Williams. Like, he was the one that had the most talent. But he just had all sorts of stuff between his ears that kept getting in his way, and those guys were ahead of him, and they were pros, and so that's why. But then he went to Bama, and he was an all-timer at Bama in 1 year.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. This is a fun team. Detroit is very, very fun. DLD is living, brother.
Gosh, the uniforms looked great.
Oh, God.
DLD is living.
We're living our best life down there, up there. I mean, it really is. DLD is just absolutely thriving. Dan Campbell did not give a game ball to Jared Goff.
I know,
despite the fact that he was perfect.
He's upset about it, though.
He was. Here's Dan on that.
Yeah, well, I just gave the game ball to somebody else, so I feel awful right now. Yeah. No, I knew he played a heck of a game. I did not realize he was perfect. I did not know he was literally 18 for 18. But I knew he played really well. You could feel it.
That's classic. You know what else is classic? The amount of scrap heap quarterbacks, and Goff isn't exactly that, but he was traded. They didn't think they could win at the highest level with him. Probably one of those trades where it worked for everybody.
Everybody wins. Yep.
They won. Rams won. Everybody wins. But the opposing team's quarterback, Geno Smith, has certainly been given up on by teams before. Sam Darnold leads the NFL in passing. How many teams gave up on Sam Darnold? 2 at least. The Jets and Carolina.
And then he was with the Niners.
He was with the Niners, and they liked him.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to ever play there or start. They drafted J.J. McCarthy to play, and they're playing well with Darnold, but it's not like that was their intent.
Yep.
They were going to go with McCarthy from day one,
so
they weren't even crazy about him. He leads it. Bake's in the top 5. Just look at the guys who are the quarterbacks who are in the top 10 or so in the league in passing, and it's so many guys who are second chance guys who are scrap heap guys. Third. Bake was 4 teams. It's crazy all the way down, and then it's rookies. I mean, it's just Jaden Daniels been absolutely sensational, obviously. But,
what's his rating?
Jaden's rating is 3rd in the league, 107.4. So it goes Sam Darnold's 118.9, Josh Allen 116.5, then Jaden, then Bake. Flacco, but he's only played, kind of just the one game, so his isn't complete. Then Burrow, Purdy, Murray, Derek Carr, another scrap heap, Lamar Jackson, and then Andy Dalton is 3rd on that list. And then it's Justin Fields, a scrap heap, Jared Goff. I mean, there's a ton of those guys that are just second chance you type guys. So, obviously Detroit is very, very fun.
Oh, man, fun, beautiful uniforms, pure joy. Yeah, there's no doubt. It is. We were texting last night. That is a fun team.
Yep.
I think they're going to be pretty darn. They're going to be good. They're going to be.
I think the NFC is wide open because San Francisco's so battered. Philly is not much. at all. Really struggling. Dallas
You
isn't
have to
much.
wonder if there's a coaching change coming in Philly. I mean, you go back to
Could
last
be.
year; they have not won many games.
No. And we're completely gutless down in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay may be the best team in the NFC with Minnesota at the moment. I still like Green Bay a lot.
It's so hard to explain how they got smoked by Denver at home.
It is, but then Denver's defense goes and, I mean, they had negative passing yards in the third quarter and beat the Jets.
It's crazy.
So I don't know. The league is crazy.
Yep.
It truly is on a week-to-week basis. God bless you. All right. The passing of Pete Rose.
Yep.
You and I and Gibbe are of an age where for us, and if you're a man, you're 40 or older, for most of my life, Pete Rose was omnipresent.
Yep.
As a kid, when in 1985, my mom got me a subscription to Sports Illustrated as a birthday gift, and it was something I cherished. It was my view into the national sports world. And Pete was on the cover of Sports Illustrated a lot.
Yeah.
Pete's not just for what he did at that point, it would have been as a manager, but then you would get him on the cover for, he shoved an umpire in like 88, and then in 89, he was banned, and that was the end of it.
Banned.
And yeah, he was. And so he was somebody as a kid who I was aware of because of the head first slide, and the baseball coaches I had would say, "Who do you think you are, Pete Rose?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. This seems efficient to do this as a kid, to just lean. That feels better than the other way. But it was the Pete Rose slide, and no coaches wanted you to do it, and you had to go feet first. You're going to get hurt if you go hands first, so forth, so on. But it looked cool. And
Looked really cool.
Looked really cool. And so there was that part of it, and it was the Charlie Hustle part of it, and the Big Red Machine. I'm not old enough to remember any of that, or him as a player really at all. But it was the other stuff. It was the managerial stuff, and then him getting banned. And then from there, he became this, in sports talk radio when I first got into it in the early 2010s, if you were on sports talk radio in June and you didn't have anything, all you'd have to do is say, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame?
And you had
Light him up.
weeks. Yep.
Light him up. Full
Yep.
lines.
Yep.
And you could do an hour.
Yeah.
You could do 3 hours on that at any point. And at that, I was down in Columbus only at that point, and I
The
would
answer
do
is
that
yes, by the
sometimes.
way.
What's that?
You should be in the Hall of Fame.
We'll get to that. So it was one of those things where he was omnipresent in that part of it. So you had him, you had what he did, you had the investigations into it, and then you had this forever debate. Remember him and Jim Gray when they honored at the All-Star game or the World Series when they honored like the greatest team ever, and he was in it, and Jim Gray's trying to press him on, will you admit it now, Pete? And anybody who read the Dowd Report knew he did it. And he finally admitted it in 2004. I interviewed Zago's nemesis, Johnny Bench.
Oh, no.
And
Zago, no respect for Johnny
No time
Bench.
for Johnny Bench. But
Guy threw the ball out of a bunker.
I'm interviewing Johnny Bench, and the only time that he bristled was when I asked him about Pete. And I thought of it from his perspective afterwards, and I was young, but I thought of it afterwards. I'm thinking, like, this is Johnny Bleepin' Bench, maybe the best catcher who ever lived. And every time he talks to somebody, he has to get asked about Pete Rose. How exhausting must that be?
Yeah.
That you can't ever escape it. Like, you're always getting asked about it. And whether it was Morgan or Concepcion or Doggy Perez or all those guys, like, they always were asked about Pete. Like, it was, he forced it. And he'd go to Cooperstown and sign autographs. He'd go to Vegas and sign autographs. He'd pay for the autographs and all that stuff. And so there was this weird history to it. And then when he finally admitted in 2004, he kind of vaporized. Nobody talked about Pete anymore. He was kind of gone. Like, I don't know, for a younger generation, I don't even know if up until yesterday when the news came out that he died, like, what is their relationship with Pete Rose?
Like your kids' age?
No, not
Or
my kids. I'm talking G-mans, guys in their 20s. Probably next to
Probably
none.
Other than if they saw him as a youth getting tombstone pile driven by Kane at various WrestleManias.
So there's that
he
part
would
of it.
attack Kane. Yeah.
There was that part
Dressed
of it.
as the San Diego Chicken once.
Where he would, all of a sudden he was in the WWF. I think it was
He's
WWF
in the hall,
at that
he's
time.
in their Hall of Fame.
He's in. Of course he is. McMahon puts him in. That
Yeah.
makes all the sense in the world. So there's that part of it. And he was on the television broadcast. Around here, if you're old enough, you remember Ray Fosse and what he did in the All-Star game, and the fact that Fosse was never the same as a player.
No, Ray Fosse used
Ever.
to do the A's games when I was a kid. He was the analyst.
There you go. I did not recall that Pete was banned in '89 and 1990. The Reds with Billy Hatcher hitting .750 swept the A's the next year in the World Series. I didn't realize.
I was aware.
I know you were. I remember that World Series well. I was rooting for your A's, but just from the standpoint of like that happened right next to each other chronologically.
Nasty boys.
Yeah. So it's a wild thing, and yet I'm left with two things. He's probably got the best two nicknames combination anyone could ever have: Charlie Hustle and Hit King.
Yeah. Hit King's good. Charlie Hustle's a little weird to me.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from.
Why not Pete Hustle?
I don't know. Petey Hustle, I don't know. I think you have to have the Y on the end of it, but I don't know why it was
Petey Hustle, sure.
I don't know. But he's Charlie Hustle and he's Hit King. He was a Cincinnati kid, so there's some Bernie parallels to it, right? Where he's like hometown kid makes right.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more popular there than anybody is in any town type of thing. So there's that part of it as well. And then statistically, he has 4,295 hits.
Yes.
So Pujols is the most recent to go into the Hall, or I don't know if he's in yet, but he's the most recent to retire with a ton of hits, and he's 10th all time with like 3,400.
Okay.
He's 800 hits behind Pete Rose.
Yeah.
The active hit leader in Major League Baseball is Freddie Freeman. He has 2,200 hits. He's 34 years old.
Yeah, he's no chance.
It's going to be like the Cy Young number, the 511.
I mean,
it'll never be anybody within 500 hits of it.
Don't you only get like 550 at bats maybe in a season?
There you go.
So you do the math. You get 333. Let's just call it. We'll do 510 at bats as a number because it's an easy to get a third of. That's 170 hits.
Yep.
10 years of that is 1,700. 20 years of that's only 3,400.
That's right. Now you start to see. So think about how far out.
Oh my goodness, they're second might as well be eighth.
Yeah.
There's that will never be, I don't think that'll ever be touched. Nobody's going to play that long or be that good for that long again. I don't see it.
What do you like? I feel like Zaga would have liked him.
Pete Rose? Yeah, Zaga would have liked. My dad liked him.
Pedro liked him, I'm sure. Yeah.
They all just thought it was ridiculous. Like, okay, come on. He should be he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people who feel like if there was the best baseball game ever played, if you had two teams, he's for sure on one of the teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I remember, like, one of the first times that I was in Vegas, he would, and it happened actually multiple times that I was there, but he would always be at one of those memorabilia shops signing. Always.
Yep. That was his way.
I have something Pete Rose somewhere in my house, for sure.
He was, I think in a way, he became more known because of all of this than if it didn't happen. Like if he had just gone in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot like he normally would have, I don't know that he would have been as known as he is now. Because once you go into the Hall, you kind of disappear, really. Unless you're like on the baseball coverage and you're part of the baseball conversation. But like there's a lot of great players. They go into the Hall and then they're gone. They're vaporized. And I think with him, he was top of mind for
years,
25 years because of it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very valid point. By the way, speaking of Hall of Famers, real quickly, because it just popped into my head when you said that. Did you see the video of Calvin Johnson and DK Metcalf on the sideline?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so Calvin Johnson makes DK Metcalf look small, and it seems to be in every bit as good a shape as DK Metcalf.
Yeah, well,
it's
we saw
insane.
him when he rolled into the Hoffs party.
He looked like
last summer.
He was a different
like,
from everyone else.
It's a different species.
Yeah, different breed. No doubt.
Is that guy? So yeah, rest in peace to the Hit King and Charlie Hustle. 83 years old. Rumpke Waste Recycling, great place to start, build a career. Check out the latest opportunities to join the team that's working together to keep your community clean and green. Learn more at rumpke.com. Those are your hot topics of the day. Hot topics presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. After further review coming up next, you'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For a team of injury lawyers dedicated to every client every day, call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk & Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time for After Further Review. Z's final thoughts on the loss to the Raiders on Sunday. And for the details, we now bring in Dr. Z.
All right, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball, as we always do on After Further Review. And point number one is going to be a positive point about our quarterback, Deshaun Watson. And one of the things that really stood out to me in this game was the way that Deshaun Watson navigated the blitz and navigated pressure. This was his best performance of the season against blitzes and against pressure. Coming into the game, he had been around 40% completions, 3 yards per attempt, and a quarterback rating, down in the 30s when it came to the blitz. In this game, it was significantly better, and it would be nice if our internet would work and I could give you the exact numbers on that, but I know it was better. Undefined. Here we go. Look at this. Great. Loading. Anyway, fine. Never mind. The
Must
fact
be
of the matter
tied to
was
the Verizon outlet.
the fact of the matter is he was significantly better against pressure and against blitzes in particular. Why is this important? This is important for a couple of reasons. The first is because teams are going to continue to blitz the Browns and twist and stunt the Browns until it proves that the line is able to deal with it. And the only way to get them to back off of these things is to have success. And I thought this was a step in the right direction for him. A couple other things. He threw with anticipation this game. There were still some throws. You could go back. You could watch the second play of the game. He had Amari Cooper over the middle that I think he could have ripped it. But for the most part, the ball was out on time. He did throw with some anticipation. He made some good throws, took what was there. And then also, I thought he was very good in the pocket in terms of how he navigated and when he chose to run, when he chose to stay there. All of those things I thought were very positive. So this was a good Deshaun Watson game. This was Pro Football Focus's grade of him. This was the highest grade that they have given him in a game since he was a Houston Texan. So, again, we don't know. It's not necessarily – at least it's an apples-to-apples thing that they saw what a lot of us saw, which was that he played a very good game in this one. Now here are the numbers. When he was blitzed in this game, he was 8 for 10, 80% completions, quarterback rating of 86.3. That is so helpful to dealing with the pressure that's going to come, because if you're able to handle that, it just allows you to have much more success going forward. Browns still need to get better off of play action, hit some more of their shot plays, but nonetheless, that was a good step in the right direction. So that's number one right there.
After further review.
Number two on the offense is it's going to be all about Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy has been phenomenal for the Cleveland Browns and really looks like a true number one receiver. He has played well. We know Amari is struggling with the drops and had that catastrophic one that turned a catch into really a 25-yard gain, turned it into an interception. But Jeudy has been very good in terms of what he has done. They've used him inside. They've used him outside. He has been effective both inside and outside. And right now, when he is targeted, he has had the most success of any receiver on our team. And so I like that. You made a trade for him. You made an investment in him as well, and he's living up to that investment. So I thought he did a very good job.
After further review.
A little quick on the offense this week because, he only scored 10 points, so there wasn't a ton that was good. But got to give a shout-out to Blake Whitehart. Blake Whitehart had not caught a pass. Blake Whitehart had not been targeted in the NFL before this game, and he goes out there and he has not only a solid game, he did a good job as a blocker, but caught all three of his targets for 13 yards and a touchdown, had another catch that was wiped off due to penalty, but you got to be happy for the kid, able to get his first career touchdown in the National Football League. That's a pretty exciting thing. He's a demon deacon in the mold of the great Tim Duncan, was an undrafted free agent with Arizona in 2023, and now is actually getting some opportunities, and I'm very happy for him. That's a very cool thing to get to do, is to catch your pass and score a touchdown in the NFL.
Yep.
So congrats to Blake Whitehart. All right, defense.
After further review.
Missed tackles are becoming a massive problem for this team, and it needs to be cleaned up. 12 missed tackles in this game, 11 the week before, and too often when you go back and watch the tape, it's the result of something. Joe Thomas talked about, Myles Garrett even talked about it postgame. It is the result of the first tackler not hitting and wrapping up and stopping the momentum. The first hitter is coming in trying to shoulder him and hit like this boom hit.
Yep.
And they're bouncing right off of it and getting first yards. The first guy's got to stop him, and then you can come in and try to clean it up. But we've got to wrap up and tackle and not allow this team to do what it is doing in terms of missing so many tackles, and other teams what they're doing in terms of breaking tackles, getting yards after contact. The Browns are allowing almost 2.3 yards after contact per carry. That's the worst in the NFL. There are too many important things that the Browns are worst in the NFL in, and that certainly is one of them. It's about blocking and tackling. Most sacks, most yards after contact. Blocking, tackling.
After further review,
All right. This is becoming a little bit more of an interesting trend and not one that I love. Week 1, Myles Garrett had 3 of our 7 total pressures. Week 2, Myles Garrett had 3 of our 17 total pressures. You feel that's good. Balance. People moving it around. Week 3, Myles Garrett had 9 of our 28 total pressures. Good again. This week, not as good. Week 4, Myles Garrett had 5 of our 10 pressures. So 2 weeks, he's basically accounted for half of the pressure himself, and 2 weeks he has not. He needs help getting after the quarterback, and we need guys to step up. Nobody else had 1 pressure. In fact, on the defensive line in this game, only Dalvin Tomlinson, Quentin Jefferson, and Shelby Harris, who continues to play well, by the way, were able to generate a single pressure in this game. Za'Darius has 2 sacks on the season, but it's kind of sometimes sacks are misleading. Last year, it was misleading that he didn't have as many sacks as he did because he was so good at generating pressure. This year, he's got 4 pressures, 2 of which have resulted in sacks. We need more consistent pressure off the edge from Za'Darius, from Obo, from Alex Wright, all of those guys. So that's 2. And then the final.
after further review,
I could go with not a great game for our secondary. Some too much off coverage at times. I thought our safeties, in particular, Rodney McLeod and Ronnie Hickman, were out of position at times and missed tackles and missed plays that they should have made. But I'm going to focus on a positive. Obviously, a lot of people talking about the draft classes. Isaiah McGuire is starting to really show something for you. Isaiah McGuire in this game, not only did he have that big tackle on the sideline, but he is the reason we got the scoop and score fumble touchdown. Isaiah McGuire beat the tackle, got up the field, got his left hand on the football. JOK came in. The football's already moving. When JOK hits him, the football comes out. So Isaiah McGuire showing, some signs of life. That was very good. And he did a great job setting the edge throughout this game. And so that's not something that shows up necessarily in the stat sheet or any of that. But, you're talking about a tackle for a loss and a forced fumble. You'll take that. That's good. That's good stuff there. So we need more of that. But that was a nice thing to see.
You mentioned the pressures, lack thereof. You and I have not talked about this off air, but is there any sense on Mike Hall?
It's kind of.
We're
this
a month
is me
in.
talking.
No. I mean,
It's
just you and I
outrageous.
talking like.
Where has he been? He's basically already been suspended for 4 games.
He's been suspended for 4 games. You have no idea. Like, it's crazy.
And the charges are
Gone.
gone.
Yeah. And there's no. I don't know. That's a strange one to me. Like, we're a month in.
Do we know of this happening with anybody else in the league
No,
where
I
they're
haven't
just
looked at- I haven't looked
commissioners
into it.
listed and just kind of suspended without being suspended?
Forever? Like, open-ended suspension forever, I guess, is what it's been. But when you mentioned the pressures, I was thinking to myself, well, that defensive line, why is it not happening? And not to say that he would fix all of this, but he was someone who was shining early on in camp and was good. And that's what he does. He knifes in and he creates the pressure up the middle. And he's just been out for a month.
Yeah, it's
So strange.
it doesn't feel like any end in sight. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
I don't either. No, there's no. As far as I know, maybe there's stuff that's happening at the highest levels of the organization. But as far as we know, and as far as what's been reported, I haven't heard anybody saying like there's an inclination of when it would end or how long it will go.
No, there's nobody saying anything.
I haven't heard
about
nothing on it. I've heard nothing. So we'll see. Good job out of you, Jerry Jeudy, who has been one of the highlights on this through this season already. Met with the media. We will have that for you coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Boost your game day this season with the Bally Bet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet of $50 or more, and you get $100.50 back in bonus bets. Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. You now head to the podium, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. It is Jerry Jeudy at the podium.
Hey, Jerry.
You guys are down 7 minutes.
Yesterday after the game about, what maybe the Raiders did differently, in the second half compared to the first half. When you went back and watched the film, was there anything that you saw that sort of in the moment, maybe it wasn't there that was there, on second watch?
I mean, what was the question again?
What did the film say? Well, when you watched the film, what did you see that where do you feel like this offense needs the biggest fixes in order to be its fully functional self?
I think we just gotta I think collectively as a unit, just all gotta be at the same page at the same time. That's the biggest thing for real. I think all 11 of us just gotta be on the same page. I think that's the biggest thing for real. Because as an offense, as a group, if one person messed up, the whole play messed up. So I think we gotta just do better collectively and just being on the same page.
Yeah, Jerry, just wondering, what would that look like during the practice week if you are trying to get on the same page with each other in a hurry before you head to Washington? What can you guys do as the 11 guys on offense together? Do you sit in a film room together? Do you have a meeting? How do you change it up?
Each individual just need to focus on their details and their assignment and their execution on the play that's given. That's how we stick together. That's how all 11 be on the same page by just focusing on your details, your assignment, your execution, and that's how plays work and that's how you become a great offense.
And do you think I'm sorry. Will you do anything else yourself this week? Will you watch a little extra film, spend a little extra time with Deshaun? Is there anything that you will do to make sure that you're going above and beyond the call of duty?
Yes. There were some plays out there. Last week I felt like I was kind of tired, so this week I'm just going to probably run a little bit more after practice, and just make sure I get my conditioning in, because I was kind of fatigued on certain plays that I needed to be out there, but I wasn't due to how tired I was. So stuff like that, that's what I'm going to work on to make sure I'm the best version of myself going in this week.
Hey, Jerry, when you went back and watched your film, what did you see on that last fourth down play?
They played man coverage. I think the DBs kind of messed up the coverage on the left side of the field. That was the read. It was coop to the corner, but the DB kind of messed up the look. So it kind of like messed up our play in a way, kind of, and Deshaun had to scramble and try to make a play. He couldn't get the ball off. That's what I seen.
And with Deshaun, you might know you guys, he's a captain. You guys, talk about him as being a leader. Felt like yesterday he was more vocal about it. He said something to Dewan, and I saw him say something to Jerome after one play. Do you sense that he's trying to be more vocal, or that maybe the frustration's getting to him a little bit?
Nah. I mean, I just feel like he just speaking his mind. You got to hold people to a standard, and when you don't play to that standard, you got to speak up and let it be known. I just think that what he was doing, just telling his teammate that we need to be better on this play. That's it.
Yeah, Jerry, I know Kevin, scripts the early part of the game, and you guys have done such a great job getting off to good starts, running those scripts. So what do you think is happening, once that scripted portion of the game has expired and you just kind of get into the flow? Why are you guys struggling to find that same rhythm that you have on that opening drive?
I really think the biggest thing is penalties. I feel like we got a lot of penalties that we need to do better on, that really hurting us. So we can't be backed up on 1st and 15 and 2nd and 15, 3rd and 15. That's not an area that we want to be in to call plays in. So I feel like once we eliminate those self-inflicted wounds, we'll be way better than what we are.
And I want to go back to the being on the same page thing, because you're not the first on your side of the ball to talk about that in these first 4 weeks. My question is, you know, why has this become a thing? And like, what is the actual fix for it? It's easy to talk about we need to do this or that, but what is the actual fix? And, you know, is this mostly because it's a little bit of a new offense?
I mean, it could be that, you know, it's a new offense for everybody in the building, but at the same time, it just up to each individual person to really focus on the assignment and details and the execution of each play that's being called. You know, that's really the biggest thing for real, just each person that's focused on one play at a time and their execution. And that's how we become a successful offense once everybody on the just do that. That's what I mean when on the same page, just each individual just doing a job correctly in their assignment.
Hey Jerry, I know we've asked a lot about like what the offensive identity of this team is or what you guys hope it to be. I know as you guys try to figure this out early on, what do you think maybe the foundation is? What are the things that are going well for you guys that you can build the identity on if you are still trying to kind of determine what it is?
I think we're starting off fast. I think that's one of the biggest key things. Starting off fast, keeping the momentum, you know, and I think the other thing we just need to do is finish how we start. And I feel like we'll win a lot more games if we do that.
Yeah, Jerry, I just want to ask you about just being 1-3, and I know your expectations are much higher than that. So, how are you guys dealing with that as a group?
You know, we hate having a losing record, but we know the season's still early. You know, we still working towards being a better team and the best version of ourselves. So, you know, we understand like the record is the record. You know, 1-3. You know, that's not good, but we also is not panicking, and we just gonna keep grinding and put our head down and keep working. That's all we could do for real.
All right, there you go, Jerry Jeudy from the podium. Coming up next, second hour of the program, get your 4 downs. Also, one thought from every NFL game, and Andrew Siciliano joining the program as well. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, here from my friends at Jim Beam. What do sports and Jim Beam have in common? Both are better enjoyed with others. So do yourself a favor and grab a bottle, gather your friends, and enjoy the game. Because with Jim Beam, you cover his fans and only leave his family. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2024, James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. Drink smart. Hour 2 of the program, time for one thought on every NFL game. Hello, Gibby.
Hi.
True or false, it was you running from the cops at Bowling Green this weekend?
False.
Damn.
I did get a good laugh.
It was funny, right?
I sent that to a former roommate of mine who he and I got into a little bit of a pickle one night. Actually,
you knew exactly where that was?
100%. You ran the wrong direction. You got to go into the neighborhood. Go into the neighborhood because you're on the main street. You're screwed.
Yeah, you got to go.
Yeah. If you go the other direction, you can hide under a porch. You can hide. Maybe you fall into a hole. Maybe that happened once.
Can't say it didn't.
Yeah, well, it did.
I was dying. Like you and my brother-in-law, he went to Bowling Green too, and I sent it to him, and he said the only thing that stopped him was he got sick. That he did the same thing, but he threw up, and so that's why he got caught.
Yeah, that's the party that I formerly was.
Yeah,
spent some time like a few hours in a holding cell, and then had to go to court. The party that I threw, my roommates and I, there were 4 like separate little like places inside this big house.
Yeah,
we walked outside and it was like midnight, and there was a helicopter. There was a lot going on. And
like this at the end.
Some officer comes running up and is like, "You guys live here?" We're like, "Nope, it's the guys in the front." And we walked to the bars. Well, when we came back, like they were all like Indian style on the sidewalk, and like, "There's the rest of them." And that one cop, I saw the one officer, and he was like, "Wait a minute." I was like,
you're 6'8", you're not exactly
you're not
inconspicuous.
No.
They're going to remember you.
Yeah, fine. I had a few hours of freedom.
That's great.
Dude, you ran the wrong way. I don't know what he did. I hope it wasn't anything serious. I hope it was just some college frivolity that got out of hand. But you went the wrong way. That was funny though. I got a good laugh out of that.
He had a good pace to him.
Yes.
He wasn't sprinting. He knew he had a long way to go, so the pace was good.
Yeah.
I like the pace.
The officers on foot were going to have a trouble keeping up.
Yeah.
But then the car comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, "Oh, you're dead.
You're done. You're
like
cooked.
he's doing 50 down that street. And
Toast.
that street is a 25 to 30 at best.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's got you. Unless you're going into it, jumping into a bar, or running through something, you're done. So I don't know. Maybe he's still in jail. Maybe he's not. It's Tuesday. You should be out by now.
Be fine.
Yeah. Monday. Monday everybody's back in their building and you can get released.
There you go.
So, little one thought from every NFL game in Week 4 of the National Football League. Gentlemen, shall we? We kick things off in the NFC South. The Falcons, gutless no more, 26. Saints, 24. Saints back to 2-2. Falcons 2-2. Zagura, one thought.
2 things, and I'll take the Saints side of this. Number 1, the rumors of Alvin Kamara's demise.
How about that?
Were greatly exaggerated. He is currently on pace to have 2,300 total yards and 25 touchdowns. Right now, he is in the league. It's unbelievable. He's 4th in rushing yards, 2nd in carries, 1st in touchdowns, averaging 4.5 yards a carry. He already also has 17 catches for 174 yards and a touchdown. That might not make him our leading receiver, but it would be pretty close on the Cleveland Browns right now. So that was number 1. Number 2, and I know it's one thing, but this is a very quick thing. I was in the food area when they being the Saints, they had like a 4th and goal in the 4th quarter, and Carr missed the throw. It was a tough throw, but missed the throw, and all the Raiders people there were like, "We've seen that a billion times." I'm like, "Jeez Louise!"
They hate him.
Like Carr was pretty good for you guys.
He was.
Yeah, so I thought that was funny. But that's Alvin Kamara has been a wrecking crew. Taysom Hill had a nice game before getting hurt. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. But the Saints are tough. But that was one that they probably feel like they should have won.
On the Atlanta side of it, I just think it's stupefying that Kirk Cousins doesn't throw the ball to Kyle Pitts Pitts had nothing in this
3
one.
targets, and they were all slants split out to the left.
It's so strange.
They were the same
Like,
route.
They just don't get him involved. They're not into it. They used the eighth overall on him and the 8th overall on Bijan. Bijan had 7 carries in the game. He had 4 targets. That's 11 total targets. That means a total of 14 targets to 2 guys you picked in back-to-back drafts with the 8th overall pick. And you picked 8th in this draft. You drafted a quarterback who is not playing. So, like, they're a formidable team. Imagine if they actually deployed their picks appropriately.
Well, here's the thing, though. Tyler Algier in this very same game had 10 touches for 80 yards. And Tyler Algier.
This is my point.
Like, they never needed to draft Bijan.
That's exactly my point. They didn't need to draft him. I don't know why they're not using Pitts. That's very strange. They're just not what I thought they would be.
No.
And I don't know why. They're fine, but they're not what I thought they would be.
Algier, if I'm not mistaken, was a 5th-round pick in 2022 out of BYU. In his rookie year, the guy ran for 1,035 yards, averaged 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And then
when
they
drafted
picked
him.
Bijan the very
what
next
are you doing?
year.
You already have that guy.
That's what I'm saying. Well, how much better are you going to be?
You're not. So, like, I don't know. It's a lot of what ifs with them because they really could have been set up.
They're still good.
They are, but they're not a serious operation.
If you put in this draft, instead of Michael Penix, if they drafted Rome Odunze, and now you're talking about London and Odunze and Pitts, and I just think they'd be a completely different team.
Up next, the Bears go to 2-0 at home. They improved to 2-2 on the season with a 24-18 win over the injury-riddled Los Angeles Rams. The Rams now 0-3 on the road here in 2024. Bo, one thought from you.
Yeah, I think for Chicago, they're starting to get all on the same page. Caleb made a great throw for a touchdown
to DJ Moore.
To DJ that was really nice, where he kind of waited on it and made it happen. And you're starting to see that come a little bit. Meantime, their defense is really good.
Yes,
and so they're playing very good complementary football to get a young quarterback up to speed. I know he does not have the start that Jaden Daniels has, but you are seeing signs in the last couple of weeks. Threw for 360 against.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago against Indy. And so you're starting to see some signs a little bit with Chicago.
Yeah, and how about DeAndre Swift was terrible the first 3 weeks, and I guarantee he was on every fantasy owner's bench because they said, Rashawn Johnson's going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. How does DeAndre Swift respond? 16 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown, 7 catches, 72 yards, 165 total, and a touchdown on 23 touches.
He must just be a jerk.
Why?
Yeah, he wasn't on the bench that played against me.
Wow.
Because he doesn't get it. Nobody wants to give him touches. Nobody lets him be the featured back. It was in Detroit. It's in Philly. Like they're
Philly he was. They just didn't want to pay him.
But they're like, we don't want to pay him. We're good. Go ahead. Good riddance.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't understand.
We could ask
it.
Deuce.
Yeah, Deuce would know. Maybe he's just a punk. That's the only thing I can think of.
Deuce had the hard knocks with him where he was like, you could be 1,000 and 1,000.
Yeah, but no one wants to trust him.
Next up, gentlemen, a good one in the early window on Sunday. Vikings 31, Packers 29. Interesting as Jordan Love returns. Packers fall to 2-2, but 0-2 in that conference. That conference record for the tiebreaker points. Not a great start for
an
Green
0-2
Bay.
with Jordan Love.
Correct. Zagura, one thought.
This game
on top of the thought you just gave
was not as close as the final score appeared. It was 28-7 going into the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up 31-29. Love obviously was able to really stack the stat sheet there. Justin Jefferson remains amazing. Aaron Jones has been very good for this football team. Darnold throws 3 more touchdowns. He's been great. This one, though, had one thing that I don't recall ever seeing before, and I don't know if you guys have either.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers were down, I think, around like the 1-yard line, and LaFleur tried to call a timeout. They didn't give it to him, and he threw his headset.
Yep.
And they threw a flag on him and penalized them 15
yards, and he went boom. He crashed out, as the kids say.
He went nuclear, and it felt pretty justified. Like,
Very justified.
I've never seen, and
Yep.
that's now you're taking them from the 1 to the 16. It was, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a big problem. This was one that I definitely got wrong in the picks, from the perspective of Green Bay and the way they're coached and as prepared as they are. I think they would have been better off with Malik Willis. I understand why you got to get Love back from the big picture, but one more week out of Willis, I think they maybe have a way to win that game in just playing the way that they were playing. Give full credit to Kevin O'Connell, though, for what he and Sam Darnold are doing together because they're seeing the field the same way. Darnold's a stud. He's a stud in this offense. It just is what it is. He's a month in.
Jefferson's so good.
He is. And Addison was back, and he was good. They got weapons. But, like, the idea that they were here on that Monday and they got the news about McCarthy, and you thought, my God, what's the point of the season? And now all of a sudden they're one of 2 undefeated teams, and Darnold looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive how far they've come since that week in August.
Yeah.
when we went up against them. By the way, Brian Flores might get another head coaching opportunity because of this.
Yeah, maybe. Yep.
I mean, that defense is pretty darn good. Up next, Colts, the Fighting Yellowstones. Drew, thank you. Appreciate your help this week. The Yellowstones take down the Squealers, 27-24. Flacco fever. 2 touchdowns
He looks good.
for Joe Flacco. Bo Bishop, 1 thought.
Yeah, I'll take the Pittsburgh side of it because I think in an odd way they actually win in a loss. And the reason I say that is everything that could go wrong did. They had a crazy turnover with Pickens where he reached the ball out and Indy recovered it inside the 10. Justin Fields fumbled in just a ridiculous way. He took a late sack that pushed him back past the 50, and yet they still were in it to win it and still could have made it very interesting until the very last minute. And the big reason that I'm talking about Pittsburgh is because they have a quarterback, and Tomlin talked about it today. He still won't acknowledge that he's the starter, but he says it's possible now that could be the reality as they ease Russell Wilson back. Well, he is. He's the starter. They now have a guy that they can work with long term. They have resuscitated his career. He's resuscitated his career. It's the entire reason we didn't want him here. And you and I were talking about it all off season. This was the one place we didn't want him to go, and yet we knew he would go there, and we knew that their stability would help him, and it has.
There's no doubt he's looked good. I'll take the other side of it, and that is Michael Pittman in one game with Joe Flacco had more receiving yards than he had in the first 3 combined with Anthony Richardson. Flacco looked great throwing the football. If they have a guy who can distribute the football, you've got Pittman. You've got Josh Downs. Josh Downs, same as Pittman, more yards in this game than he had in the first couple of games this season.
Was that your first time seeing Richardson play a lot?
Yeah, because he only played like 5 games as a rookie.
Yeah, but like earlier in this season, our games usually went head-to-head, so you didn't get a chance to see him. So I was talking to you about him as the season went along. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this dude throws it everywhere.
It's crazy because he was in this game. He was 3 for 4 for 71 yards, which is really good.
Yeah,
but the one miss was so insane.
He'll throw to the 6th row
on a 5-yard out that was not being contested in any way, shape, or form. But great for Joe Flacco. He was such a great guy when he was here, not just a great quarterback in Flacco fever and how fun that was, and we were winning games and all of it, but just getting to have him here, sit in the seat that Gibby was in, was as fun as you could have, and to get to have him to have that moment, and it's great.
Yep.
If they can get Anthony Richardson to harness all of his potential, clearly they have way more upside with him as the quarterback because of his ability not only to throw it, but to run it. I mean, he also guy accounted for 95 yards of offense, I think, on one drive. He didn't play, wasn't in that game for very long at all. But they have a much better chance to win right now with Joe Flacco. There's no doubt.
Well, and I mean, now the AFC South, their opening game, they lose to the Texans by 2 points.
Yep.
I mean, they're right there. I mean, the rest of that division, I mean, Jacksonville's 0-4, Tennessee's 1-3. I mean, it's right there for them.
Totally.
If they can keep pace. We talked about decisions the Steelers made. What was it, the second quarter? On that 4th down, they go for it at like the 35-yard line.
Yeah, on their own.
On their own, and didn't get it.
They don't get it.
Yeah.
And
the other thing that
in the game is that 3 points.
Cordero Patterson should be their lead running back.
Yep.
Najee Harris is not. He is not good.
He's not explosive.
He's been
at
very
all.
good against the Browns in his career, but he is not explosive. Cordero Patterson is explosive.
Well, Denver's done it again after going to Tampa Bay and shocking the Buccaneers. The Denver Broncos go into New Jersey and take down the New York Football Jets 10-9. Denver 2-2. The Jets are 2-2. Zagura, one thought.
The Jets were penalized 13 times in this game for 90 yards, and a lot of them were on offsides, false starts because of the cadence of Aaron Rodgers, and he is being belligerent about it. And
Did you hear the back and forth
between him
and
and
Saleh goes to the mic first Sunday and says, He's doing some things with the cadence that we're going to have to adjust. Rodgers goes to the mic and says, well, maybe we just need to have some discipline.
And accountability.
Then Saleh goes to the mic yesterday and says, he's right, it's part of our game. If you watched Hard Knocks, they gave Rodgers the keys to the kingdom when they signed him. Bob Saleh might not be there next week.
No, and they're weird. I think the vibes on that team are just odd.
I think so, too.
Jets fans, I can tell you, are just done. They've jumped into the river.
That takes me into the next game, and I might as well ask the question, who's on the bigger hot seat right now? Bob Saleh, Nick Sirianni, or the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, Doug Peterson did something that is pretty – you don't hear a lot of coaches do, basically say –
What did he do? I missed it.
Oh, his postgame was basically like, I can't play. He's like, they got to execute. He's like, the players play. Can't sit well in the locker room. I cannot imagine. But he basically was just like, we're getting all this stuff in the right. We're dialing it up. And Lawrence missed one pass, but for the most part, I thought he was decent. I'll tell you this. My big takeaway from this one is Nico Collins might be the best receiver in the league right now that nobody's really talking about in terms of, you're talking about a guy who's going out and producing consistently week in, week out. The answer is Nico Collins. He's got to be, this is not without knowing. Okay, so he's second in catches and first. He leads the league in receiving yards. 30 catches, 489 yards so far, and he's been good every single game. 15 for 151 against Jacksonville, 10 for 86 against Minnesota, 10 for 135 and a touch against Chicago, 8 for 117. He has been as consistent and good as anybody in the league. And then the other one is that Jacksonville drafted a superstar. Brian Thomas Jr. is a star. He is going to be next year in fantasy, second round pick, first round. He is that good.
I'll take the Eagles side of it. You mentioned Sirianni in this. How improbable is it that a brain trust of Doug Peterson, Frank Reich, and Nick Foles beat Brady and Belichick in a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Like that happened in our lifetime.
It did.
And also Tampa Bay might just be really good.
Yeah, and that
they might just be really good.
But Z, you said it earlier, Z. I mean, when was the last time what is the Eagles' record over their last
They finished
10
the
games
season,
going back to last year?
They were 1-9. And now they're 2-2, so 3-11.
To answer your question, Gibbe, about who's on the hottest seat, Sirianni at least has. I mean, their defensive issues are real, but
he has injury issues.
No, some of the injury stuff. They have no receivers. They're really banged up. So I think that's some of it for them.
He has been to a Super Bowl too.
Yeah, and whereas Peterson in Jacksonville seems like a complete lost cause. And who was the other hot seat you mentioned? Oh, it's Bob Saleh. Yeah, that's a matter of time there.
I kind of wish Mike Evans played in a different market. I wish Mike Evans.
I bet Mike Evans loves the market he plays in.
I bet he does. I'm just saying, I don't think people.
Tampa! You'll get there. I
don't think people have an appreciation for
the G-Man's watching Eastbound and Down.
How great he is and how great his career has been and how historically
100%.
significant it is.
It's just like
if he was on the Giants, New York Giants.
It's Megatron. And he actually won a Super Bowl. There are guys where you get in a place and people don't ever see you. I think it's like the Hoff. That type of thing with the Hoff. We know what the Hoff is, but if you lived in another market, unless you're looking at all pro teams every year, you're not going to know.
Here's Mike Evans' career. Rookie year, 1,051 and 12, 1,206 and 3, 1,321 and 12, 1,001 and 5, 1,524 and 8, 1,157 and 8, 1,006 and 13, 1,035 and 14, 1,124 and 6, 1,255 and 13, and this year already he's got 214
and he's got a
3.
Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He's got a championship.
But he walks in a gold jacket the second he retires into camp.
He's the only one 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons to open up a career. Only one ever.
Yep. No, he's crazy.
All right, Mr. Siciliano is waiting here at 2:30, so we're going to rapid fire and then probably just stack through this. Bengals 34, Panthers 24. Bishop, one thought.
Bengals got right. They've been right offensively for 3 straight games. Burrow's been lights out for 3 straight games, so they're on the come offensively. Defensively, they have real issues, as we thought that they would.
Have you talked to anybody down there? Are they saying, is it Chase Brown time yet? I mean, the guy's so much more electric
that was
than
the
Zach
other
Moss.
part. He was great. Chase Brown's great, and that's not great for us because he's he hits a hole and he's upfield.
He's so much better than
he's
Zach
so much
Moss.
better. Yeah, I don't know if they didn't trust him in blitz pickup or
Are
whatever.
they seeing
but-
it though?
but
Or are we?
Yeah,
It's
been
coming?
noticed.
It's being noticed.
It's being
Okay.
noticed. Yeah.
The other side of that is this game could have been different. The Panthers got stopped at 4th and 1 on the goal line on their very first possession, and that obviously was a big momentum shift in this game.
Commies 42, Cardinals 14. Zagura, one thought.
Jaden Daniels is unreal.
Yes.
And this was a beating. They've punted once in the last 3 games.
Yep.
They've punted once in the last 3 games.
That's right. That's right.
Let's see. The Bills have scored more points than the Commies, and
I'm not convinced that Cliff Kingsbury ever wanted to be a head coach in the NFL, but once it's offered, you can't turn it down.
Yep.
I think he really wanted to go be the offensive coordinator at Southern Cal and have a place in Manhattan Beach and call ball plays and have some fun. And instead, all of a sudden, the Cardinals offered him a job, and it's like, well, you can't turn down the NFL, so he took it. He's good at calling ball plays, and he's got a quarterback that sees it how he does. Deserves some credit for that.
yeah, there's 2 teams, Saints, Bills, that have scored more points than the Arizona Cardinals.
They beat Cincinnati and Arizona on the road.
Yeah, 1 and 3,
scored
but
what,
they
like
are.
80
Who do they
points?
play this week? Who do the Commies play this week?
Us.
Oh,
By the way, did you realize that we get the Eagles coming off of their bye week?
great. Fantastic.
Yeah, the Eagles are on a bye. Bye week start this week in the NFL.
Great.
Ugh. Can we get that figured out? But that's a conversation for another day. 49ers 30, Patriots 13. Patriots have come a long way since week 1, and not the positive way. Nathan Zagura.
Our poor guy Jacoby Brissett is being beaten.
That's why they didn't play May, right?
I know, and he's like insulted by that they're just not playing him so that he doesn't get beaten up. It probably is true. I mean, it is ugly. They have nothing, no weapons at all on the Niners side of it. Mason is. I know that they missed McCaffrey, but you're talking Mason gives you 150 total yards and a touchdown, 5 yards a carry. I mean, he hasn't been McCaffrey in the passing game for sure, but he's been very effective running it. Pretty good. They're still good, and they're a team that if they can get healthy, nobody wants to play them.
How did the Patriots beat the Bengals in the opener?
It's completely
16 to 10.
It's
nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Malfeasance, it feels like.
It does feel like.
You know who the other undefeated is in the NFL? It is the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs 17, Chargers 10. Bo, one thought.
No Pacheco, no Rashae Rice now. My guess is they're going to be in the trade market. They've got to get somebody they can trust in the pass game. They're not scary at any way, and yet they're 4-0. They're going to have home field. They're going to run roughshod through that division, and they still have the Wizard in the postseason. So they're vulnerable, but
for sure. Somebody tell me why the Chargers have Justin Herbert and they're like, we don't need any weapons.
I think they're playing the long game, and Harbaugh is saying, I can play it this way and get us in the postseason in year 1, and then we will add weapons in year 2.
I hope
When
so.
that salary cap becomes a little more
I
friendly
like
for them.
Herbert.
I do too. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot to like.
Sunday Night Foosball, all Ratbirds. Ravens 35, Bills 10, Bo.
This one I saw coming. It just seemed ripe for Baltimore to do this. I thought they could win it in a similar fashion. Thought it was in play. Night game, all black uniforms, all the stuff. Buffalo crowned, all of that. Baltimore is the best front runner in the NFL, among the best maybe in the history of the sport. They are so hard to come back from when they get up like that, and they can punish you in the ground game, and they play so well with the lead. That's why it was so strange they lost to the Raiders this year when they were up 2 scores in the 4th. Just off character, but it was for them. It was. I love what Todd was doing offensively. All of it was a win.
Yeah, Lamar is very good. Derrick Henry still
Yeah.
the speed at his size is incredible. It really is incredible.
That is one thought for week 4 in the National Football League.
All right, there you go. By the way, I have an incredible stat for you guys on the. It was the Miami Dolphins are the only team in the NFL who have not led for a single second this year. Miami Dolphins have not led. They won on a walk-off.
They won a
field goal.
walk-off field goal week 1, 2017 over the Jags.
So they have not won on a. They have not led for a single second all season. Andrew Siciliano coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans, come party with Josh Cribbs, Kevin Mack, Joe Hayden, and more. True Fan Travel hosting premium trip packages for Browns fans in New Orleans, in Denver, in D.C. this weekend. Flights, hotel, tailgate, tickets, all taken care of. Visit truefantravel.com today and reserve your ultimate Browns travel package. We had it on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. It is play-by-play voice Andrew Siciliano joining us there. Before we get into the football, I'm curious if you had any anxious moments, because I had the treat of listening to you call the Ohio State game on Saturday night, and then you were calling a game in Las Vegas the next day. Any anxious moments in transit, my friend?
Hi, guys. It's not about me. If you really want to know, I didn't sleep because I was that anxious.
I believe it.
Period. Yeah, no. It's, hey, I'm a lucky guy. I got to do both. And God willing, the planes took off on, I say planes, I was double booked on flights Sunday morning just to be safe. Right?
Yeah, gotta be.
It's, you book 2 flights and you're like, you gotta cover your tail just in case. So yes, I was quite anxious, and when one of them was on the runway, the one I took, and we were barreling down the runway, then you cancel the other one just to make sure. And yes, I was quite anxious, and I did not sleep much at all.
But he made it.
We made it.
He made it.
He made it.
We made it.
Yeah.
He was at the stadium before I was.
And
I was on the early bus.
And Nathan was on the early bus.
Exactly.
All is good.
All was
so
good,
you
and then
look,
a few hours later, it was not as good, unfortunately.
No.
Not as good.
What do you, now that you've had time to digest it? I know you've watched the game back. I've watched the game back. What are your takeaways? What is this team right now?
It's a good question. I think it's a team that always starts well. I mean,
Yep.
scoring on the opening possession every game, that's good. The 15-play, 70-yard drive, 9.5 minutes. I mean, you cannot ask for a better start to the game. You just got to maintain it, and I think that's the one thing. You can't leave it to the fourth quarter and you hope it comes together and you can pull a drive out of thin air to save the game at the end. That's the one thing this week. That when the Commanders score on 16 consecutive drives,
That's crazy.
when Tress Way, their punter, is on the side of a milk carton, right? I mean, he doesn't even have to show up. The old joke about training camp or practice during the week where the specialists are off on another field working on their golf game, right? Like those guys bring their golf clubs to practice. I'm not saying that's what Dustin Hopkins or Corey Borges do, but that's what football players think. Oh yeah, the specialists over there just hanging out, doing whatever. That's what Tress Way has done. Like on game day the last couple of weeks, they don't need him, right? So if the other team is scoring every possession, and the Browns certainly hope to stop that, you can't just have a good first quarter and then hope to pull it out in the fourth quarter, because you're not going to be able to at that point. You're going to be too far behind. So you need to bottle some of that first drive magic and keep it going. And on the critical downs, like the 4th and 3 at the end of the game, you can't let Christian Wilkins win instantly off the line and have your quarterback scramble and try to throw across his body to save the game. You can't let free hitters get to your quarterback on the most critical plays of the game.
He's right. You're so right about that. And it's a game. It's a team that, obviously we put out the call of the week. It's the Rodney McLeod scoop and score. You think you're going to win. You miss the extra point.
My voice cracked, by the way. I'm sorry for that. That might have.
It's pure joy, dude. It's pure joy and enthusiasm. Make no apologies.
My voice cracked. It sounded like that was 12 again. But anyway, I cut you off, man.
Listen, that's the joy. Sometimes we need to let our inner child out. And that's what you did in such a joyous moment right there.
Anyway.
When you think about what the task ahead is, now it is on the road Washington, on the road Philly coming off of their bye week, home Bengals, home Ravens, home Chargers. You got 5 games to try to get this thing. We were talking earlier, we feel like you need to be 4-5 at worst. 5-4 obviously would be better, but 4-5 at worst going into that bye week. When you think about the task at hand, what's the one thing, if there was one thing that you could say, we need to improve this one thing and that'll give us a better chance, what would it be right now with this team?
Yeah, I mean, I would say offensive consistency, and look, the same page thing. We keep going back to that 1,000 times.
Yep.
But offensive consistency from start of game to end of game. And I would also say, look, again, you don't want to put too much on the defense here, but you got to tackle better in space, and you got to force a few more turnovers, ones that count, ones that don't get called back due to penalty. That Rodney McLeod scoop and score, and give credit to JOK, and give credit to Isaiah McGuire, who, by the way, graded out fantastic on PFF.
Yeah, he's good.
Good for him. You need more of those, and now you don't want to force too hard that you blow assignments and you go for kill shots and you let guys get explosives because you're not fundamentally sound. You can't have that. But look at the Commanders this week. They're stretching the field much like the Giants did against us, east and west, not just north and south. And you got to be able to tackle in space in the flat and the perimeter. You cannot let them break free because that is their game. And Austin Eckler, guys, looks rejuvenated. A couple of years ago, he might have scored 18, 20 touchdowns for the Chargers, but if you look at him, none of them in his huge year, none of those scores were from outside of the red zone. They were all red zone scores. He didn't have that burst. It seems like it's back. I mean, he had the kickoff return touchdown, the one where Graham Gano got injured, the one that got called back. He had that week 2. He had the explosive early on, week 3 in Cincinnati. He's got burst again. And then you throw in Terry McLaurin. You throw in, even Jeremy McNichols had burst last week. They are going to stretch you east and west as much as north and south, and if you don't tackle, they're going to kill you.
Yeah, they certainly are, which brings us back to, this is daunting. Like, you thought you were going to beat the Giants, obviously. You felt like you would go and win out in Las Vegas without Crosby and without Adams. It didn't happen. So you have to find a way to win. Offensively, as you reassess everything here, Andrew, what do you think we can do well enough to give yourself a chance to win Sunday in Washington?
So, again, going back to the first drive, Deshaun's 9 for 9, a lot of short drops, a lot of quick game. There were a couple of shots, I wouldn't say deep downfield, but I would say underneath and medium. Take them as you can get them. You also, though, have to have the ability, though, to when you see those 15-yard in cuts, when you see those posts in the middle of the field, to be able to see them and take them and hit them.
Yep.
This is not just like hey, you're mad at DeJuan because he took the inside guy instead of the outside guy, and Sean got a free hitter there, and he couldn't hit Amari on that deep shot. I believe the third quarter. Not just those. I'm talking those intermediate throws that are there for the taking, and you're taking checkdowns. Look, I'll take the checkdown. I'll take the 5 and 7 yard gain anytime, so you're not behind the sticks. But you got to hit some of those intermediate throws. Now, look, they hit the one to Amari. They called back, and if I could say this. I was on RBS early on Monday, and I said I thought it was a good call. Look, he was pulling the jersey, and I said on our broadcast, Nathan, you could see the hand of the jersey tug on Wilkins. But after watching the TV copy, hearing the Hoff on with you yesterday, hearing Ross Tucker yesterday, I am not as certain that was a good call as I was on the broadcast on Sunday. I've seen far worse not called on Myles Garrett week in, week out, and I don't think that that hit the high bar of what a holding call should be.
Couldn't agree more, and you could see the jersey, and I'm sure that's what drew the attention of the referee's eyes, and that's why the flag gets thrown. But I think by the letter of the law, even as the way Hoff described it, that probably shouldn't have been a penalty, and Ross Tucker certainly was adamant about it, that being a bad call. But the Browns still had every opportunity to overcome that, and still they were not able to. And I think that's what's been so frustrating for this team is, no, we have not played our best football, but you still had 3 chances in the fourth quarter against the Giants, 2 against the Raiders to go win this game, and you have not been able to do it for a variety of reasons. And the clock's ticking, right? You talked about what we have to do better. We got to have that efficiency on offense. You got to be able to tackle better, blocking, tackling, the basics of the game, as we talked about on the broadcast. It's going to get late early if you don't find a way to get out of this kind of nosedive that you're in.
Yeah, we all know that. We all look at the calendar. We all see the schedule here. You got to make this 3-game homestand meaningful in October. So
yes.
You got to win at least one of these next 2.
Yep.
And let me say this, too, about what you're walking into this week. We all agreed it was more orange than silver and black in the stands. And you guys were there. Or you were there for the entire weekend. Vegas was Brownstown. I grew up, for those who don't know, in the Washington, D.C. area. And when I was a kid and they were going to Super Bowls all the time, it was the only game in town. The Bullets at the time, we had no baseball. The Capitals were good, but they would lose in the first round every year. It didn't matter. Washington is a Commanders or whatever. It's a football town, whatever you want to call the franchise. It is a football town. It is back, and it is back as much as it's ever been back. That stadium has seen better days, but it will be shaking. They are as excited about this team as they have been since RG3 took them to the playoffs as a rookie in 2012, and then that thing fell apart quickly. This franchise is awake and alive, and the town loves it again. They lost an entire generation, fighting back against the owner. There was apathy. Throwing Sunday ticket in fantasy football, you had 20 years of fans there that didn't care because their parents didn't care anymore, and they just chose to do something else on Sundays, like play fantasy football and root for a team somewhere else. That's over. They are back, and it's not like you're going to be walking into a building with all Browns fans. Browns fans always travel well. There'll be Browns fans there. But it's going to be, and Nathan, you saw this in Jacksonville. That didn't really feel like much of a road game, right?
No, this will be.
A lot of Browns fans. Upper deck was empty. Weather sucked.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. This is going to be a lot different.
Andrew, I don't think people realize that, and you're the perfect person to talk about it with. But, I mean, if you go back to Gibbs and the Hogs and all of that, and Tony Kornheiser writing bandwagon columns in the Washington Post and all of the stuff that came with that, this was one of the absolute pillar organizations in the NFL. It was them, the Cowboys, the Giants. They were the ones that were these models. You could not get tickets to RFK. Forget it. Could not get in.
You couldn't. And that's the era I grew up in there when they were going to the Super Bowl every year. We couldn't get tickets. We didn't have season tickets. We had a neighbor who had them. And I think like maybe once every 2-3 years, my dad could convince the neighbor to get the tickets from him. Like we would go when the Browns would come to town. But, that wasn't very often, especially with the way the schedule was back then. It was also a regional team because that was without the Carolina Panthers, without the Jaguars. I know people ask why
Baltimore.
Does that matter, but the Colts got up and left. And, if you go way back before the Falcons became a thing, before the Bucks became a thing, that franchise was the franchise of the South. It was the franchise from Washington all the way to Miami practically. Mm-hmm. And it was huge. And then for various reasons, ownership most notably, it just died. It died in Washington. That's over. It's back.
Oh, it is back in a big way. And for me, thinking about the last time that I was in Washington for a game, it was New Year's Eve. I think the game was played on New Year's Day, I want to say. Does that make – I think it was. Deshaun had a good game, had a good second half. We ended up winning that game, but that was a game that was started by Carson Wentz. Ron Rivera was still the head coach. Said that he didn't know if they lost that game, they were out of the playoffs afterwards. That crowd was as hostile for Carson Wentz as I have heard a crowd ever. And they introduced Major Tutty, which might be one of the worst mascots I've ever seen in the history of football. At halftime, people were booing Major Tutty. So it's going to be a completely different environment than what we saw the last time.
Environment. Yeah, and listen, it's back because they have a quarterback and they're winning and there's new energy there. Listen, we had this, I say we, like the area, in 2012. When RG3 won week 1 in New Orleans, there's that iconic shot of him sitting on the ground there with his hands in the air after hitting a deep shot for a touchdown. It was back then as well, but it was very short-lived. Very short-lived. Jaden Daniels has brought that energy back, and the new ownership obviously kind of sort of means everything there. Now, that doesn't matter on the field, but I'm just saying that the intensity. Last week was a Raiders team that was backed into a corner, and they were injured, and they were sad, and they were lonely, but they won, right? This is not that. This is a confident team with a re-energized fan base.
All right, buddy. You'll be on the call on Sunday, as is customary. Appreciate your time here with us on a Tuesday, pal.
Guys, Astros have runners. No, the Tigers have runners on first and second, top of the second, no score.
What is that? What's that sport?
Oh, the baseball thing started today.
Oh, there's baseball? I didn't know that. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about Jeremiah Smith.
Well, on the Columbus show, I'll have you on. You want to talk tomorrow?
We talked about it.
You want to talk about Jeremiah Smith tomorrow?
Guy's surreal.
I'll do that. Because,
all right, buddy.
Holy
yeah,
cow.
Real one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Real one. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
See it.
All right, Andrew Sicilio. So the best thing is the G-Man doesn't know that I'm kidding. The look on his face was that I actually didn't know what any
Incredulous?
of that was. Yeah. No. I just don't talk baseball. I'm over it. Other than Pete Rose. Plenty about that when we have to. So much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be part of one of the most passionate fan base of the NFL. Join Next Gen STM, presented by Ticketmaster, the official wait list of your Cleveland Browns. Being a Next Gen STM, your best chance to become a season ticket member in future seasons. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/nextgen to reserve your spot today. There you have it. I believe we've done it.
We've done it.
All right.
Yes. Did you give the news? Or just the read there. You just did the read. No big news. Gary Brightwell.
30.
Oh, go ahead.
30.
Yeah, Gary Brightwell has been released, so there's an open spot on the Browns 53. Before people think that means Nick Chubb is coming back this week, even though he's training practice, probably just means Pierre Strong's hamstring is okay.
Yeah.
And they're going to need a spot somewhere else. That would be my guess.
Good job out of you. That's why we pay you the
15.
big bucks. The next
I'd like
level,
to be wrong. I'd love it if Nick Chubb's starting in Washington.
No, I just think let's have some common sense.
Yeah.
Next level is next. We're back tomorrow. Cleveland Browns Daily, 8:50 ESPN Cleveland.